Always start off with two big pots of water. So one pot I have filled about halfway. This is the big one that everything's going to go into once I've parboiled. So here are all of my different types of meat. I'm using a frozen beef shank, which I have thawed. I believe they're knuckle bone. This one's frozen beef bone. And I'm also using a package of oxtails. The type of beef bone and just beef in general that I use to do pho changes all the time. Depends on what I have in my freezer or what's on sale. My blog I show you using chicken. That's because I like to use chicken because it's produces less fat, but it tastes better with beef and beef bones. So here I've added all my different types of meat, and then I'm going to fill it up with water. This is my first pot here that we're going to parboil. And this is the second one, the clean pot that's going to, the reason why you boil at the same time is that it's such a big pot, it takes a long time for it to come to a boil. So if you do it while you're parboiling your bones, then it'll be ready by the time you're done parboiling. While our bones are parboiling, I'm going to take our onions and we're going to chop them right down the middle and leave the skin on. That's going to give us really good flavor in the broth. And I'm going to take some ginger and then cut some pretty big knobs. Just split them right down the middle, just like this. And then I'm going to throw that under the broiler here in a second. You will need some coriander seeds, some cardamom pods, about 2 split, some cinnamon sticks, and some whole cloves. Oh, can't forget the star anise. This is very important. This is what's going to give it the smell. I mean, all of it smells very fragrant, but this is the star, no pun intended, of it all. I have here a table. I'm going to add in all of my spices into. Some people would like to toast the different spices, but I don't see the difference or why you should because the spices are already fragrant as is. But if you want to, that's your choice, but I don't think it makes a difference. So I've added everything in here and I'm going to show you guys what we are going to do, what we did with the ginger. So here's the ginger and the onion. I've put it on my oven at about 500 degrees, broil, and then now it gave it a nice good char. So our bones have been parboiling for about 8 to 10 minutes. We're basically cleaning the bones, getting them ready for the long simmer. So I'm going to show you guys here the other pot. It's about to come to a boil, which is working out perfectly for us. So now I'm going to show you how to clean and dump the bones here. So you want to take a really large colander, put it in your sink. I like to turn on some cold water as I'm flipping it out at first, just because the thought of really hot water going down my sink kind of freaks me out. So then I turn it off once I've dumped half of the bones in, and then I dump the rest out. I take some water and I'm basically cleaning off the excess scum. This will give you a very clean and clear broth. That's what we aim for if you want it to be, nice and look appetizing. So this is why you want to make sure it's all nice and clean. So I have here all my ginger, onion, and the bones and my tea ball. And I'm going to add in some rock sugar. I'm going to add in rock sugar also with some palm sugar. I use those first, and if I don't have any of those, then I use regular sugar. It just adds a different depth of flavor or sweetness to the broth. And there's the palm sugar that I'm just going to dump in. I put a little bit more water than I usually do because I'm actually going to simmer this for 8 hours, so overnight. I'm adding in my fish sauce. Unfortunately, the recipe on my blog, the only difference there is the amount of cooking time, which the one on my blog I did for 3.5 hours, and I used chicken. Like I said, every time I make pho, it differs every time. So in this video, I'm showing you how to do it the most yummiest way. So I've added in my cinnamon sticks, and then I've added in a handful of star anise, and I'm giving it all a stir. Now always, I know there's a recipe for the pho in terms of sugar and salt. It will always change depending on how much water, how long you simmer your broth for, how much, because when you skim off the fat, you take out some of that broth with you as well. If you simmer overnight, that amount of liquid will reduce, so the more it reduces, the saltier it gets as well. So always use it as an approximate guess of how much you will add and how much you will need. So always go by taste. So here it is 8 hours later. I let it go overnight. I actually woke up once at night and I put more water. That's why it's more than it Probably should be because I want extra broth. So I'm just skimming off all the fat off the top. I cannot stand fat, so I skim it off constantly, and I'm probably going to skim it off again. So now after all the fat has been taken off, or what I could get at that point, I'm going to discard the onions and the ginger. And then I'm going to try to get off all that meat from the bone. Don't just toss it. If there's any meat on there, take your knife and kind of cut that off so that people can enjoy that later. Once most of the contents of the pot has been removed, I'm going to add a colander fitted with 2 cheesecloths on top, and we're going to dump out that broth. What you want to do is basically use the same pot you used to parboil and just wash it off so you don't have too many pots laying around. I mean, you have the time, right? So dump it all out this to, again, ensure a nice clear broth. Really, if you're cooking this at home for just your family, hey, if you don't want to do this extra step, then you don't have to just dump everything, take everything out of the pot and then skim off the scum or whatnot and then serve. But this is if you want to impress, you want a clear broth. That's just how it goes. So now I'm going to skim off some more fat because like I said, I cannot stand a greasy bowl of pho. Next you want to add in your beef balls. I like the beef with tendon. I cut them in half then add them in. And then I'm skimming off some more fat, of course, because that's how I roll. And I'm basically going to let this come to a medium boil just for about 10 minutes just so that some of that meatball can soak in some of that flavor. Really thin slices of raw meat. This is optional. I'm using a sirloin here, I believe. Set this aside after you've cut them very, very thinly. Like I said earlier, check your beef bones. If you have any meat on there, make sure you cut that off for your guests to add on to your their serving bowls. Here are the oxtails that I've shredded. And you want to take some thinly sliced cut onion, put them in an ice water bath. This will give a nice crispy touch to them. And you will need some fresh rice stick noodle, and I will show you guys how to blanch that for those of you who do not know how. Remove your rice stick noodle, place them in a really large bowl with some hot water, and take your hand and just kind of swish it around. This will loosen up the noodle and allow easier blanching. You will need a fine mesh sieve fitted with a long handle. You want a good handful of noodles in there. Will give you about a medium-sized bowl. And you want to have your water come to a light simmer. And you want to blanch your noodles for about 15 to 30 seconds. Take your chopsticks and loosen it up while you're doing that. Next, you want to take your raw meat and put that in the water for about literally 5 to 10 seconds max. If you want, you can add this in with your noodles while you're blanching your noodles as well. Last but not least is that yummy broth. If your broth is at a really hard boil, you can add thinly sliced pieces of raw meat and then add the broth right on top of it. It'll cook it that way as well. So here are our condiments. We have some bean sprouts and some mint and some lime. I have 2 different types of hot pepper. I have some Maggi soy sauce, or the soy sauce with the green cap is really good too, and some hoisin, and there you go. This is the finished result. I've added some sliced green onion as well, along with the thinly sliced white onion. My meatballs, I like to add in my lime here. I just squeeze it and throw it in sometimes too. And I also have here, if you look closely, there is an oxtail bone in there. Yes, I like to gnaw on the bone. I am Cambodian, and that is what we do. So thanks you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I know some of you are like, oh my gosh, I know how to blanch noodles. Well, this video is for those of you who do not. So enjoy it, and please subscribe. I hope you guys all had a wonderful holiday. Until next time, or better yet, the next video, I have some fun and exciting news to share with you guys. So I hope you guys have a good one. Bye!